now it's time for a look at what's been making headlines here in a week in France. At least one person has tested positive to hantavirus in France and is currently in intensive care. French authorities are monitoring 4 others who were on board the MV Hondius, the cruise ship at the epicenter of the outbreak. They've also tracked 22 contact cases who've shown no signs of illness. James Facina has more.
Words of reassurance from France's health minister, who provided an update on Tuesday about the spread of hantavirus among its citizens.
A total of 22 contact cases have been identified in France. All of them have been contacted, tested, hospitalized, or are in the process of being hospitalized and are under close medical supervision. Finally, I want to be very clear. At this stage, the positive cases identified are exclusively cruise passengers who were on board the MV Hondius. There is no evidence of widespread transmission of the virus within the country.
5 French holidaymakers were on board the ship where the outbreak of hantavirus took place, while others shared a flight with a person who has tested positive. Authorities say that they are rather reassured over the fact that the virus may not have mutated, but cannot be certain for now. Nevertheless, one researcher at the Pasteur Institute in Paris believes its impact will be limited.
I'm more thinking of dozens of cases. It can drag on for several months because the incubation period is long. It's on average 2 to 3 weeks. It can go up to 6 weeks. So between each series of patients, you may have a month. What is good, if I may say so, with this virus is that it's not very transmissible. It's not highly contagious. For transmission, you need a close contact, something like less than 2 meters. It's transmitted through the saliva, the droplets of saliva. And it's only the people who are symptomatic who are contagious.
Health authorities remain cautious as hantavirus has a high fatality rate, believed to be between 30 to 50%. The World Health Organization says that there's no evidence that the virus is behaving unusually.
French prosecutors are pushing to return former President Nicolas Sarkozy to jail for 7 years over allegations that the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi secretly funded his 2007 presidential campaign. Sarkozy was sentenced to 5 years for criminal conspiracy in 2025, but he served just 20 days in Paris's La Santé prison before being released under court supervision. He's since mounted an appeal. France 24's Olivia Bizot has been following Sarkozy's legal woes for us.
7 years in prison and a €300,000 fine. That's the price the state believes Nicolas Sarkozy should pay. It's a heavy demand, and notably, it's the exact same sentence that prosecutors asked for the first time around. Now, the judges don't have to follow this, of course. They have the final word, but it does send a very clear message. The prosecution is not budging. Now, to understand why this matters, you have to look back at what happened last year. Back then, Sarkozy was actually cleared of the biggest charges, the corruption and the illegal Libyan funding, but he was found guilty of criminal conspiracy. And for the last 3 days, prosecutors have been trying to tear that original verdict apart. They've been arguing that a corrupt pact with Muammar Gaddafi wasn't just a theory, it was a reality. But this isn't just about the former president, it's about the people who ran the country with him. The prosecution is going after his inner circle just as hard. For his former chief of staff, Claude Guéant, they want 6 years and the seizure of his Paris apartment. For them, this isn't just a one-man trial, it's an entire era of French politics. So where does that leave us now? While the prosecution has finished their marathon, from Monday, the defense will get to fire back. We'll see this trial wrap up in a few weeks, and the judges will give their final verdict on November the 30th.
France's Interior Minister Laurent Nunez pledged to stamp out drug crime after shooters killed a 15-year-old in the western city of Nantes in a suspected settling of scores linked to dealing. France is battling drug-fueled violence in several cities, with dealing spots near residential buildings and gangs ensnaring teenagers into the trade. Jenny Shin has more.
Here in Nantes, French miners were involved in a deadly shooting on Thursday. In recent months, cases involving teenagers have been on the rise. In Grenoble, a 13-year-old was seriously wounded by gunfire last November. A feeu days later in Romans-sur-Isère, a 14-year-old was involved in a shooting. And in Marseille in 2024, a 14-year-old boy was hired online to settle a score. The Interior Minister says young profiles like these are becoming increasingly common.
The people who are affected are often very young, the victims, but also the perpetrators. You have more and more instigators who use young people as perpetrators, who, for a few hundred or €1,000, carry out violent acts.
From killers to those who scan lookouts, dozens of ads are circulating online. Journalists from France Télévisions responded to one of these ads. They found offers worth several €100 in just a few minutes.
How old mean you not for lookouts? I'm 14.
That's fine if you're keen on making money, but you have to be serious.
Is housing possible? I'm alone in France without papers.
According to this lawyer, drug ringleaders and their young recruits have a major incentive.
For minors, having several €1,000 is not insignificant, and for the ringleaders, paying 10, 20, 30 or 40,000 euros is pretty insignificant compared to the turnover of a drug dealing spot.
According to the latest official figures, nearly 10,000 minors were involved in drug trafficking cases in 2024.
Digital vigilantes are now using advanced deepfake technology to expose the dark reality of internet grooming, using AI as a powerful weapon against online predators. Caitlin Brown has more.
He has made a speciality out of hunting online predators. This is Pierre Connet, the YouTuber behind a live-streamed trap for this 66-year-old man who held a sexually explicit conversation with someone he thought was a minor.
Could I kiss you, for example?
In this live stream, the 66-year-old, whose face is blurred, believes he is talking to a 14-year-old girl. In reality, he is talking to Pierre Connet. Using artificial intelligence, Connet alters his face and voice in real time. The illusion is almost perfect.
Have you ever taken photos of stuff like that and send them, for example, on Snapchat to friends?
Photos of me?
Yes.
Yes, I take photos of myself.
Yes, but nudes. Nudes, as you kids say.
The YouTuber creates fake profiles of teenage girls on social media. Within minutes, dozens of men reach out. He insists he never initiates contact. His goal is simply to gather evidence for authorities.
My hand is like this to cover my beard because the lighting isn't great here, so you can see my beard, so I have to hold my hand like this. I talk to them, I act innocent, and as soon as they make sexual advances, I pretend I don't understand. I try to get proof.
The live stream was watched by thousands of viewers who eventually identified the 66-year-old man. Dominique B., a former gym teacher and ex-president of his local Olympic committee, known for leading youth sports, had already been given a suspended sentence for possession of child pornography in January 2025. On the day the video was posted, the man turned himself in at the police station and was taken into custody. But police are wary of such methods to flush out suspected paedophiles. They fear targets could grow suspicious, destroy evidence, or even take flight.
Now, France is a country known for its fine wine and not for its beer. But for the first time in the country's recorded history, more French people are drinking beer than wine. Caitlin Brown examines this surprising shift.
Fresh and light versus aromatic depth. For the first time in recorded history, the French consumed more beer than wine last year. While the gap is minimal, it signals a major shift in the country's drinking culture.
When it comes to wine, people talk about it a little less. And so naturally, people who don't necessarily know much about it prefer a beer and have a good time.
So why the shift? Overall, alcohol consumption has declined significantly over the past 30 years, as more consumers become aware of the health risks linked to excessive drinking, making beer more attractive to consumers, not only due to its lower alcohol content, but also the variety of options available.
The world of beer has evolved more in the last 25 years than it did in the previous 100. Today, with the rise of microbreweries starting in the 2000s, people have sought to make different types of beer, to completely broaden the spectrum of flavors and tastes, and so, naturally, this is due to a much wider audience. Here, for example, I have one called l'Embraté des Mille Années, and it's a tiramisu-flavored beer.
The wine industry has also suffered from an elitist image that young winemakers are seeking to change, with simplified and clearer marketing to bring in new customers. France remains the world leader in wine exports with 11 billion euros in international sales.
And finally, videos of French deer spinning in circles have caused a buzz online, with many wondering why these deer are seemingly intoxicated. It's a strange but natural phenomenon that occurs each spring, according to scientists. Our colleagues at France 2 went to France's Rambouillet forest to learn more.
This video was filmed at the end of April in the southwest of France. It shows a small deer, visibly disoriented in a field. He spins in circles, falls, and struggles to hold himself upright, seemingly in a state of intoxication. Hikers in France's Rambouillet forest had some thoughts.
What did he drink?
Is he looking for something?
It's a brain issue.
I don't think he's doing too well.
He's crazy.
So what did happen to this deer? To understand, this animal behavior specialist brought our team to a forest full of wildlife. Here, roe deer prone to these tipsy episodes cohabitate with other species.
Roe deer are more solitary animals, so they're difficult to observe.
Each spring, the forest comes back to life. After a long, hard winter, roe deer gorge themselves on young buds and shoots. But this change in diet has consequences.
Roe deer are very gourmet. They eat small quantities but of very nutrient-dense plants full of sugar. This is the case of buds or new shoots. And when there's sugar in the stomach of a ruminant animal, ethanol forms. This ethanol, alongside other molecules in these young plants, can cause this sort of intoxication we see in roe deer in the springtime.
This drunken state can last several days, until the animal's metabolism re-regulates itself. Local police have called for drivers to take care, warning them to steer clear of Bambi if he's gone too hard at happy hour.